I have the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Paul, recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My first question, Mr. Ambassador, I hope is a short answer. Did I understand you correctly that we do not have any hard evidence that the Iranians are enriching to weapons grade?
At this stage, sir, I'd have to get back to you in a classified setting with a specific answer on that question, okay. But we do know the Iranians are continuing to enrich in violation of their international obligations.
Well, that would mean it would have to be weapons grades then, because they're allowed to enrich for peaceful purposes. So I think you answered the question.
No, but my only point, Congressman, is that precisely because the Iranians have not answered all the questions that the IAEA has posed to them about past weaponization questions, okay. It's important for the Iranians to meet their international obligation to suspend enrichment.
And yet, up till now, they have not been found in violation of the NPT. But let me go on to the next question, and this has to do with our reaction to a theoretical situation. What would we do is if a powerful foreign government announced that it was prohibiting the exportation and importation of petroleum products, and at the same time impose stringent inspections on all U.S. citizens going and coming from the country, all vehicles, all ships, all planes, all trains, and all cargoes. I know how the American people would respond, but how can you give me an opinion about how we in this country should respond to a powerful country doing that to us?
Well, Congressman, just as you said yourself, I mean, I don't think the American people would appreciate that. But you don't want to say how we should respond. Well, I'm sorry, Congressman, I don't quite know how to respond to that hypothetical question. Okay,
let me follow up on that question. What I just described, how is that different than a blockade? If we were going, if somebody came in and did this to us and said that we were going to prohibit the exportation and importation of petroleum products and not allow people to go back and forth, vehicles, ships, planes, trains, and cargoes. How does that differ from a blockade?
Congressman, I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
What I'm trying to get is a definition of a blockade. I'm describing, a set of circumstances, which is the same set of circumstances that we're proposing here in the House to impose on Iran. So I want to know how that's different from a blockade. I've been told here today it's not a blockade. But if people aren't allowed to go back and forth, it sounds to me like a blockade unless an expert like you can give me a better definition of what a blockade is versus sanctions.
I'm sorry, I'm not an expert on blockades. Blockades are often commonly understood to mean efforts that are enforced, whether it's by the Navy or by others. I mean, such as the blockade that, applied in Cuba 40 years ago or so during the missile crisis. So I don't, but I mean, I'm glad to try to get you a more precise technical definition.
Because it sounds like the Navy would have to be involved if petroleum products weren't allowed to go in and out and ships and cargo weren't allowed to go out. It sounds like the Navy would be involved. When our government states that all options are on the table, does that mean that a nuclear first strike is an option for us as a country?
So it doesn't, when we say all options are on the table, in the same breath, we always emphasize, President has always emphasized that we're fully committed right now to a diplomatic approach, and he hasn't gone beyond that, nor have other senior American officials with regard to, anything beyond saying that all options remain on the table. But our focus is a diplomatic one. We are convinced that we have not exhausted all the diplomatic options before us and the rest of the international community. As I've tried to make clear today, we're determined to try to maximize the possibilities for a diplomatic solution.
But that is very similar to what we were told before we went into Iraq, that the Iraqis wouldn't negotiate with us, and yet they were willing to.
Will the gentleman suspend for one moment? Let's just remember the original sort of understandings here. No disturbances during committee proceedings, and ask everybody to let the gentleman from Texas's comments and questions be made and answered. Sorry.
Well, I